So first off, my name is Dave Brown. I'm the office manager in the Office of Multicultural Student Affairs at VCU. I've been in this position for over 5 years and with the university for over 16. A year ago, I started these events thanks to my awesome director who encouraged me to do more in the office than just be an office manager. And since they knew I knew a lot of people with really unique careers, the idea was get me to talk about them. And that's how this program started last year with just one event, which was Women's History Month, and then expanded to the following month for Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, and just has continued from there to the point where I try to do them for every Heritage Month throughout the year. To get started though, I'm going to let Steve introduce himself and mention what he does for a living, and then we'll get into the questions. And if Vern joins, I have questions for Vern as well.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'm Stephen McPherson. Most people know me as Stephen Faith, also as Stereo Faith, which is my DJ, or my DJ name was Stereo Faith. It's now Stephen Faith. But I've been a DJ since the 90s, but I've done it as a full-time career since 2010, so about 12 years. It's been my moneymaker. So yeah, and I also book other DJs for events and have a little small up-and-coming company called Fact 33. It's named after Factory Records number 33 release, which is New Order's Ceremony. And it's the first record New Order put out after ending Joy Division for, reasons I won't talk about because I think my son's watching. But after Joy Division ended, they started a new band called New Order, and that was their first record, which again, it was titled Ceremony, and Ceremony was the last Joy Division song. So Fact 33.
Awesome. Okay, give me 1 second here. Okay. So yeah, we'll just start with your questions. And like I said, if Vern joins in, we can backpedal a little bit to his questions. So I've known you for a number of years, but I've also known that you've been hired for many different types of DJ gigs, from like Britpop to punk to even just like straightforward weddings. Do you think having an especially like broad music knowledge has really helped get your name out there to give you like, that wider audience rather than just like this music or that music?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So as you've mentioned, I listen to and play a lot of different genres. I've always been that way. So I grew up listening to heavy metal and reggae. Eventually I got into punk rock. Britpop came after sometime in the late 80s, early 90s. And, because just the radio's always on, I DJ top 40 music in bottle service clubs, do weddings. Oddly enough, a lot of weddings nowadays, clients want not just the typical wedding staples, they want like specific genres. Like if they're into indie rock, they want it to be on the indie rock side of things. If they're into hip hop, they want it heavier on the hip hop side of things. So it's not like the typical wedding gig, but like having a broad knowledge of different genres of music is helpful. And it's been helpful in the club industry. I play techno at techno clubs, play house music at house music based clubs. I play hip hop, as you mentioned, punk rock, heavy metal at various venues, disco. I play it all. So, yep, having a broad knowledge of different styles of music is helpful and has been helpful with getting my name out there. Yes. You're on mute. Can't hear you.
Okay. So when COVID hit and pretty much locked down the world, that meant hopping on, let's see, that meant that DJing was not really happening either. What was it like for you, both professionally and personally, basically having like your career just screech to a halt?
It was pretty scary, but luckily, people out there listening, when your parents tell you to always save for a rainy day, well, I did, and that day came, and it's continued to rain since March of 2020. But basically, I kind of had money saved and was able to, just continue living with zero income. There was zero income. Everything came to a screeching halt. All the venues closed. All of my wedding clients postponed. But during that time, I was able to continue booking for 2021, 2022. So that was helpful. So still taking deposits, but it was getting really, really scary for a while. But yeah, I was able to survive. And that's one of the things that you have to watch out for when you're working for yourself. There is no paid vacations, there's no paid sick leave. And then in the event of something like this, you don't get paid. So it's helpful to always have a plan, have a long-term plan, save, no matter what, how lucrative it is at the moment. You never know. So, and when you're relying on your own income and someone's just not paying you, because whether you're there or not, you have to be ready.
I meant to ask, since you mentioned the company that you're trying to build, where'd the actual name Stereo Faith come from?
So Stereo Faith, it started out in the 90s. When I first started DJing, I started DJing a Jamaican sound system in Atlanta, where I went to college. I went to Morehouse. And so I started DJing, and because I'm into so many styles of music, I would talk about metal, talk about punk rock, all the shows I've been to, all the hip hop concerts, all the Jamaican sound clashes I saw. And I was just so knowledgeable about those styles of music. The owner of that sound system was like, man, you're like a blood clot stereo. So they started calling me Stereo, and the faith came from, for those of you that do know about Jamaican sound systems, or you know this already, but Jamaican sound systems, they're all over the world. Well, they're really reggae sound systems, because they're not just all run by Jamaicans. They're sound systems, and they battle all over the world. They tour. There's sometimes it's a collective of 3 DJs on the sound system, more, sometimes less. But the people, they support their sound system almost like you would support a baseball team, a football team, basketball team. You go out and you go see your favorite sound system, and you watch them, clash another local sound system, or one that's from abroad or something. So growing up in DC's biggest sound system, and my favorite, was Emperor Faith. And so when I would talk to these, the owners of the sound system I played for, when I would talk to them, you support it like you would support your football team. So I would explain why Emperor Faith is the best in the world. Like, I could say, well, they play this way, they have this type of music, they have these connections. And so when I started playing for them, they called me Stereo Faith, after, because my sound system was Emperor Faith.
Awesome. Yeah, I've known you so long, and I never ever thought to ask that. And I was writing up these questions, I was like, this gives me a great opportunity to ask a silly question in front of a lot of people. So, let's see here. What were you actually, you mentioned that you were like booking for like upcoming gigs, but like, when did you really feel like it was kind of safe to start doing so again? And do you think it is safe to start doing so again now? Like actually in-person gigs?
So I've only returned to a couple of clubs, and clubs that I felt comfortable with. They were enforcing mask mandates, checking for vaccinations, sort of the configurations of the clubs that I've returned to. The DJ booth is away from the people. On the wedding side of things, I would say almost all the weddings I've done since things have started slowly opening back up, they've all required the guests to be vaccinated. Masks are optional. So I've felt comfortable in certain arenas, I should say. There are some that I just haven't returned to because I'm not ready. I haven't traveled much either. I used to travel a lot to DJ, but since things have been slowly opening up, I've only kept it local for the most part.
I actually just got a text from Vern. He's going to be logging in about a minute. So I'm going to admit him, and then I'll backpedal a couple of his questions so you can rest for a minute. And give me one sec here. Thank you all for your patience through all this too, by the way.
There we go.
All right.
Oh, what's happening? The video's not working. There it is. I'm in here.
All right. All right. Well, you only missed a couple.
Get in a good area. There it is.
Oh, awesome. You only missed a couple questions, so it'll be pretty easy to catch up, and then we can keep on flowing from there. Thanks again for joining us. This was just such a hot mess of a day, so I'm glad we got it all sorted out.
Oh, it's a mess of a day, but awesome.
Well, I already had Steve introduce himself, but for those who don't know you, do you want to introduce yourself and say what you currently do for a living?
My name is Vern Laird. I am the team manager, marketing manager for Bones Bearings.
And for anybody who doesn't know what Bones Bearings is, can you give a little backstory on the company as well as how you started as their team manager and why?
Okay, so the background of the company, we fall under the umbrella of Skate One. Skate One is Pal Peralta skateboards, Bones wheels, mini logo skateboards, Era trucks, and roller bones. Don't think I'm leaving anybody out. We used to have more brands, but I think those are all the current brands. Started in 1976 by George Pal. His first brand was Pal Skateboards, and then he brought in legendary skateboarder Stacy Peralta as a partner, and he was also a pro at the time. And then the brand became known as Pal Peralta. As they grew to make more than just skateboards, he created George and Stacy created Skate One. So Bones Bearings started in 1981. The first bearings they made were out of Switzerland. And from then they added more bearings to the catalog. And so I've been managing Bones Bearings now since April 29th of 2010. So I have a 12-year anniversary coming up.
And you've obviously stuck with it, so you clearly enjoy what you're doing. So
it's skateboarding. It's working for what I think is the best skateboard company. And because George Pal is an engineer, so he wants to engineer the best products possible. And that's always been the focus. And I think that's what's helped have the longevity of the company.
So I asked this question of Steve, but I'll ask you as well. When COVID hit and locked down most of the world, that meant hopping on planes to film skateboarders came to a screeching halt. So what was that like for you?
Well, I work remote, just so everybody knows. So COVID never changed the fact that I was never going to the office anyway. I think I was only going to the office for meetings. I know when I first got the job, I was going every Tuesday for a meeting. But at that time, the office was in Santa Barbara and I'm living in LA. So it's like a 2 hour drive without traffic to Santa Barbara. And I was like, man, these drives are hard. Can I just come like once a month? And so my boss was cool with me just coming once a month. And then now it's just kind of like whenever there's a real important meeting, because now with things like Zoom, don't really need to be there. You know, we were doing like a lot of Skype stuff, but Zoom is definitely more conducive for like what we do now, because you know you get multiple people in on a meeting, so it's just easier to conduct business now that way. But I would say I did miss traveling because I did travel a lot. I do work a lot of events and skateboard contests with a group known as the Border. Sometimes they'll have me MC, sometimes I'll DJ, sometimes I'll judge. So, and you know, like there's a lot of events that were happening before COVID hit. And so pretty much every month I was going somewhere. And then for like pretty much like 2 years, I didn't get on an airplane. And I remember my first time back, I was like rusty in the airport. Like, I'm like, how do I check in? Like, what's going on? Like, what do I do? Like, I felt like a rookie flying, even though I've flown like nearly 2 million miles in my life. Like, it was like, it was just such like a culture shock. And I remember actually kind of sucks because I had a friend who died from COVID like early on, and I was at home for his funeral. And it was like the weekend before the world like shut down. And then I actually had a flight to Colombia, and I was on the plane, and I was like, I have to get off the airplane because they're about to shut Colombia down. And it's like, they're like, no, we didn't get any information of this. And I'm on the phone with United. I'm like, no, I'm getting off this plane. You guys have to pull my bags off because like I'm going to get to Colombia and then I'm going to be stuck. And they closed the airport like that Friday. This was like a Thursday. So it's like I would have got there either to turn around or I would have been stuck there for like almost a year because their airport was like closed for like a year. So it was crazy.
Not a bad place to get stuck, but not unless you want to be stuck there.
I was stuck there for 3 months when I was dating a girl from there. So that's about my time limit that I could do in Colombia. I don't know, anything longer than that.
Understandable.
Yeah.
So what is it like for you? You said you, because you're back on planes again, what's it like? And do you feel like it's really the right time to be back to doing what you were doing before?
It sucks because I'm going to sound like a snob. I always sit first class. So like, I don't know how the rest of the world sits. It just comes with my status from flying because even when COVID happened, I kept getting these emails every year. United's like, no, we're keeping your status the same. We understand no one's flying. So like, I still have like the top tier status on United, like even now. And like, I barely went anywhere last year. And they're like, no, we're just because you're such a loyal customer. So pretty much every time I get on an airplane, I'm already social distanced from everybody. So I it's not any different to me. I'm sorry. It sucks that I have to sound like that, but I don't know that coach life.
Well, how
looks
is it
terrible
like,
back there.
how is it being at the actual events though? Just because those are definitely different now, right?
Well, I didn't go. Well, I was selective about events, I would say. Um, Anything that was like enclosed indoors, like I definitely didn't go to. I only went to like outside events. And I know when I worked a Tony Hawk event last year and he had everyone submit a negative COVID test before they even got on an airplane. And a couple people tested positive. So it meant they couldn't skate, they couldn't go. And so I feel like all the bigger events, they were just definitely more strict. I've worked like a couple of Red Bull events where we're getting tested daily. The same when I worked like Do Tour, there's this COVID testing daily. I stayed away from the events where they didn't have the same protocol in place because I've managed to not catch COVID this whole time, and I'm trying to keep it that way. So I've been super selective pretty much this whole time.
I caught it last November. It's definitely no fun. So be glad that you have not.
Last year for Christmas, right before I got to my mom's house, my mom had COVID. Like
Ah.
everybody in my family had COVID. It was like the worst Christmas of my life. I couldn't see anybody. Like saw my mom for like we pretty much opened presents, and that was the only time I saw my mom. And then on New Year's, we like watched the ball drop, and that was pretty much it. Like she was pretty much just in her room, like feeling terrible, and like yeah, it sucked because pretty much my whole entire family had it for the holidays, and I showed up to like a COVID shitstorm pretty much, but managed to dodge it.
Okay. Well, fingers crossed you continue to.
Yeah, I'm trying.
Let's see. This question is for both of you, and I'll have Steve answer first.
These things work. So
yeah.
Just saying.
For like coming from the punk scene and with its like do it yourself work ethic, do you think that helped you weather the pandemic instead of just like throwing in the towel and trying to get like a normal job that had some more like, stability?
Absolutely. From the, being in a punk scene, like it teaches you a lot of things. And one of the things it teaches you is like resilience and the ability to bounce back and weather the storm and to adapt to change. So definitely that was helpful. Also, with the punk community, you develop good relationships. So those relationships, led to like me continuing to book things and take deposits without necessarily playing the gigs just yet. So as I mentioned earlier, like I'm still booking for 2021, 2022. And that came off, the heels of like recommendations from various friends in the community. So definitely it's helpful in that respect. And again, like I mentioned, just with the ability to just kind of stand strong, amidst adversity and keep going.
How about you, Vern?
I never wanted to leave my job. I love my job.
I understand.
I mean, this is like the dream job. So like it's pretty much like you're working with friends. Like skateboarding is like a pretty small industry. We all know each other, so it's weird. Like it's kind of like going to like like the shows back in the day where it's like the same people everywhere. Like you would see like the same familiar faces, and it's like there's a lot of similarities between like the punk hardcore scene and skateboarding. So I can't see myself doing anything else at this point in my life. I'd probably like go crazy if I had to like work a regular 9-to-5 job or something. I don't know. Not cut out for that life.
Yeah. Let's see. This is another question for both of you. And I'll have Vern answer first this time. How do you maintain a healthy work-life balance while having careers that are so not typical 9-to-5?
I don't have a personal life. That's what I've learned. Like it just crosses over, like I've been trying to actually create boundaries, with like what happened? Oh, my battery's about to die. I got to plug this thing in. But I've been trying to create boundaries. So it's like, dude, I don't want to always talk about skateboarding. Like I want to do other, like, it's like, dude, I do other stuff other than skate. I don't need someone like texting me at like midnight on a Saturday night, like asking me about a package or something. It's just like, dude, like I'm sleeping, or I could be out. I could be like getting caught in a mosh somewhere. Who knows? But yeah, it's definitely it's a struggle to not make skateboarding every second of my life, but I'm getting better at it, I guess.
Yeah, I would agree. It's hard to maintain a delicate like work and personal life balance when you work for yourself. I was just remarking with a friend a couple of days ago how when you work for yourself, you never clock out. You know, you're always on the clock, day and night, because you're constantly you have to respond to emails because this is your income. So you don't want to delay a response, or you're constantly planning for the next couple gigs. So it's really difficult. It's difficult to support friends in your industry, to go see them play, you know, friends in bands or other friends that are DJs, because you're constantly working, but you have to kind of develop that. And you know, there's been numerous studies about it. They've, you know, if you watch the news and stuff, like how to create a good work, you know, a good balance between your work life and your personal life. So I haven't mastered it yet. I'm trying. I'm trying to turn off, you know, the phone and the computer, you know, a little bit earlier in the night. But it's hard to do. It's really hard to do. That's probably the only thing I miss about a 9 to 5 job, is that once you clock out, that's it. You can kind of pick it up the next day, and without, without like sort of ruining anything. But that sort of goes away. You're like constantly working. So.
Let me see here. This is another for both of you questions. And I'll have Vern answer first on this. What have been some of the challenges you faced as a minority within your respective industry, and how do you work to overcome those challenges?
Wow. So can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Because I now you're coming through my car speakers because I had to charge the phone before it died. Well, there is definitely a lack of diversity in skateboarding. Like, it's definitely better now than I would say from when I first started in like 1987. But as far as the participants of skateboarding, it's super diverse now. But as far as the people working in the industry behind the scenes, it's still got a long way to go. It still looks like 1987 at a lot of these companies. And the terrible thing is, like when Black Lives Matter movement started, all these companies wanted to jump on like, yeah, Black Lives Matter, this, that, and the other thing. They're making their like Instagram posts, but their hiring practices aren't really reflective of what they're posting on social media. And that is something that the whole industry needs to overcome. It's like, I always go back to like do the right thing. Like, hey, Sal, how come ain't no brothers on the wall? And that's kind of how skateboarding is. There's not enough brothers on the wall. And that definitely needs to change. Like, they need to start practicing what they preach. Like, it's cool they're making their little social media posts, like pretending to care. But it's like, if you're not really hiring the people, then it's like, dude, you don't really care. So don't even make the post at all. Like, I don't know. That's just how I feel. And I just saw amen come through in like the text. So. And I don't want to mention a lot of companies by name, but because there's a lot of companies that suck that I don't support. So like if this, let's just say if there's certain shoes you see me wearing from now on and some you don't, it's reflective of their hiring practices. And it's like, that's up to everybody else. You could support who you want to support. I'm not telling you what to do. This is just from me and my own personal experience. It's like, these guys are just so hypocritical. And it's a lot of skateboarding.
And how about you, Steve?
Well, what else? Could you repeat it?
Of course. So what have been some of the challenges you faced as a minority within your respective industries, and how would you work? How do you work to overcome those challenges?
So I haven't had a whole lot of challenges. So basically, as you know, I come from like a punk rock background. And although there's not a lot of diversity in punk rock, there's the values and ethics are there. So my first couple gigs, people just gave me opportunities just based on just being knowledgeable of the music. So there was no like initial big hurdles. And then as I grew and as I was able to like play more and get my name out there, it then became, just getting gigs just based on my own merits. So they didn't care what I looked like or anything like that. It was more just, you're good at what you do and we want you to do it. So whether it be a club or a wedding or a corporate event, there weren't a lot of hurdles. But talking though, like, because I play so many different styles of music, a lot of the audiences are segregated. So if I'm playing like techno at a techno club, predominantly, white audiences. But again, they don't care. If I'm playing hip hop, it's predominantly Black audience. If I'm playing indie rock, it's predominantly white audience. Obviously reggae, predominantly Black audience. So what I would like to see is more, diversity, people kind of expanding their taste in music. We do have a lot of DJs who play various styles of music. So it's good to see that. A lot of crossover there. Like we've got a bunch of DJs locally that, they play hip hop clubs on Friday and indie rock clubs on Saturday. And that's good to see. But yeah, so it'd be just good to see more audiences like crossover. And then there are people working towards, myself included, they're coming up with ideas and ways of getting different communities to come together. So yeah.
You both kind of touched on it, but I don't know if you want to expand any further as far as like things that you hope to see, like say in 10 years, where do you hope to see your industry as far as like diversity and inclusion and equity? You can go first, Vern.
Yeah, I mean, in 10 years, I'm hoping, just because I think there was a lack of diversity as far as hiring practices, just because there was a lack of diversity in the participants of skateboarding. So now there's still a lot of old guard involved with a lot of these companies, especially the ones that have been around a long time. The newer ones seem to be a little bit more diverse, but as like this newer generation of skater gets older and they're not trying to be pro or sponsored or whatever, hopefully they just want to transition into taking over the industry, like running all these companies that have been around forever, or like maybe these new companies that they start blow up like they're the new big company. So that's kind of where I hope to see it. Just things just need to change. You can't have the same stuff for like ever. Like skateboarding's been around like what, 50s, 60s, and it's like there's still a lot of those old guys still in charge to this day, and a lot of those old guys are still stuck in like old mentality. So with newer people, you have new ideas, you have new blood. So I just want to see that.
So I would like to see more diversity again in the crowds. Seems like certain demographics, they tend to stick to just the one thing that they know, or that like their community is supposed to listen to. Like for African Americans, it's like hip hop, and they just kind of stick with hip hop. Not across the board, but just in general. And so again, I'm working with other DJs locally to try to figure out how we can like cross that over, because the hip hop community would like some of the punk rock stuff. Punk rock community like hip hop, indie rock, Britpop. So more diversity there. Definitely in like the booking industry for a lot of DJs. I've just been fortunate to be able to break into various industries, you know, just nationwide. You know, I can play house music in New York or, you know, disco in Atlanta. It's been great, but it's not the same. It's not like that for all DJs, not for all African American DJs. You know, they kind of, you definitely pigeonholed as if, you know, if you're a DJ, then you must play hip hop if you're black, or if you're not, if you're white, then they you know, assume that you don't know anything about hip hop, and it's not true, you know. So you know, more diversity in booking from club owners would be great to see in another 10 years. You know, again, I've been fortunate to be booked, well, just on my own merits, just my reputation. It's been great, but it's not, again, I recognize that it's not like that for everyone. So it'd be nice to see some change.
Okay. These last two questions are semi-intertwined, but I'll still ask them separately. Since you've both been doing what you do for quite a while, what advice would you give if you could go back and talk to your younger selves? And what would you like your legacy to be in regards to what you're doing now? And we can start with Vern again.
Okay, go ahead.
We only got 2 more questions. I thought we were going for like an hour and a half or something.
We're at about 45 minutes, so we're going to leave the last bit for a question and answer if anybody has any questions.
Oh yeah, because like I've been keeping my answers like super short. So I'm like, dude, I don't know, like, because I can ramble myself for like 2 hours. So I've been trying to cut myself off. But as far as younger me, wow, younger me would have pushed myself harder to do like harder tricks. I would have tried to have skated with better people, I guess. Maybe I would have made it to California a lot earlier than I made it, because the skateboard level was like different. You know, we didn't have this thing called the internet, so you didn't know what people were doing in California. And like by the time I got out there, it was like, man, these guys are light years ahead of me. I better get a job. And maybe I wouldn't have been going to college every other semester for like 10 years. Maybe I just would have banged it out right away. Because I kept like, oh yeah, I'm going to take off this semester. I'm going to go to San Francisco for like 3 months and go skate. And then I'll just go back next semester. And like, you know, like I took the long route on school, which I'm like bummed that I just didn't just get it out of the way, because there's still so much life. Like I thought I was missing out on something. Like when you're young, you think you're missing out and you need to do everything right now. And I'm still 47 years old. Like I'm still out skating and filming clips, and like, it's like, man, I'm not missing out on anything. Like I missed out on like, you know, maybe just, I feel like I'm late for everything. Like I'm a late bloomer. Like everything that's happened in my life is like taking a long time to like materialize. But like, yeah, like now everything is like hindsight. It's like, man, should be further along in certain aspects of my life, but whatever. You live and you learn. And that's all I could tell like these younger guys. Like I get bummed, like so many skaters like don't even graduate like high school. And now I have to like manage these guys that can barely do anything that I'm asking them to do. And it's just like, man, this sucks. Like I wish they would just at least finish school. Like there's no hurry. And the amount of ones that finish college that I deal with, it's like even fewer. And it just makes my life easier and my job easier when you can just do simple things that I'm like asking you to do. And it's, I don't know, man. I don't know. I wish I could go back in time, because I know so much more now. I need like that flux capacitor so I can just go back and go back in time and change some things, I guess.
Yeah, I would definitely tell my younger self to start down this path sooner. Definitely, anyone out there who's thinking of, doing your own thing, uh, don't get the idea that you shouldn't go to college just because college won't, sort of help your career. What you learn in school will, translate across any arena. So I love, my college years. Don't regret that I'm not exactly using it, but because it's all, the knowledge has been helpful just across the board. So, but jumping into what I do, I would have done it a lot sooner. So I would say that. I would also like tell younger people to, if you know what you want to do, and it's sort of like an unorthodox career, just start cultivating relationships in that arena a lot sooner than later. Because, with these unorthodox jobs, a lot of it's based on relationships. So it's good to cultivate good relationships with people, and continue to do so. So, and also, again, don't let the fact that your parents want you to go to college or anything, don't let that stand away. Do it, because again, the knowledge is helpful. Finish school if it's just high school or college. Keep going. But yeah, if I think I don't know. This is just kind of been my observation. My generation, or ours, Vern, was that last generation that you thought, or your parents thought, your family thought that you would, that success is becoming a doctor, lawyer, scientist, something like that. After us, and then our generation, we've kind of figured this out later, but there are other careers out there. There are other ways to be successful. You define your own success. Initially, I was going to go to law school, and I still will, but I don't want to practice. I just want the knowledge. So I'm going to figure that out. It was something I started figuring out right before pandemic hit. So that just kind of went out the window for now, but now that things are getting better, I'm going to pick it back up. But yeah, so, you define your own success, figure out what it is, start cultivating those relationships, and work towards achieving that goal. And I think nowadays, a lot of younger people are figuring that out. They want these, career path that didn't take, and that's okay. I think a lot of parents are encouraging that. Years ago, you didn't. It was just kind of like, I'm going to go to med school, or like, in my case, law school. And there was no sort of clear path. There was no internet. So there was no clear path to how to get to these unorthodox jobs, like working for a skate company in Vern's. I couldn't tell you how to do that, but I could tell you, the path to becoming a doctor or something. So I think now with the internet, you can kind of figure these things out, who to talk to, and who to develop these relationships with, so that you can kind of pick people's brains and go down this road that isn't a normal road. So.
You kind of dug into the next question without me even asking it. So I'll have Vern start with this one. And if there's anything else you want to add, Steve, if you could pass along one piece of advice to someone wanting to follow in your footsteps and be in your industry, what would it be and why?
I kind of always tell people not to work in skateboarding. I'm like, if you can avoid it, don't do it. I mean, you have to have a real passion for this, because it's not for everybody. And like Steven just said, he wouldn't know how to manage a skateboard company or do whatever I do. But it all sounds like fun and games. It's like, well, I want to do that. And then when you see
You're actually froze up, Vern.
He might have to restart.
I think it's going to catch up.
I could jump in. I was figuring while it's like catching up or whatever if you want.
Freeze. Zoom technology. What's going on? Oh man, dude. Hold on. Am I there? Can you
You're there, but you're not moving.
Yeah, jump in. Hello?
Yeah, Steve,
Oh,
if you want, if
man.
you have anything else to chime in about, oh, there you go. Oh. Do you want to jump out and jump back in? There we go. Okay.
What was the question again?
Oh yeah, basically, if you could pass along a piece of advice to someone wanting to follow in your footsteps, what would it be and why?
Oh, definitely. Again, as I mentioned before, get out there and cultivate some good relationships with other DJs, club owners, people that work in the clubs, because those are the ones that are going to get you the gigs that you want and need. Invest in yourself. You have to invest in yourself. A lot of DJs don't do that. You have to buy your own equipment. You have to practice. You know, it's costly. But when you work for a corporation, they invest in you. They give you training. They give you the tools you need, your laptop, all that. So you have to do the same for yourself. When you want to be your own business, you have to invest in yourself, and it's costly. If it's worth it to you, then it's worth the investment, you know. But it's a relationship-based industry, so if you don't go out and meet and support other DJs, then you know no one's going to refer you to a gig, or if they're like, there's oftentimes I'm double booked, or someone reaches out to me about a gig. Luckily, I now book other DJs, but like, if I don't have a relationship with you, if I don't know that you're a good DJ, or I've never heard you play, or you've never come and just chatted up with me, then I can't refer the gig to you. You know, so you have to get out there, and so in this particular industry, it's a night-based industry. So you got to get out there at night. You know, after your day job, you got to hit the pavement. It's a lot of work. It's not fun, but it's ultimately worth it. It was worth it to me. You know, once I decided to leave the day job, it was sort of an easy transition. I'd already developed those relationships. You know, so it was kind of a smooth transition. So, you know, if that's what you want to do, you got to get out there.
Someone asked, is there an accomplishment that you're most proud of?
Can you guys hear me? Am I back in?
We can hear you, but your video isn't moving.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh man, that's weird.
There you go. Well, it moved for a second.
Oh man, I think it's just like the signal, like where I'm at. I realize it's like a weak signal. Like, I don't know. It sucks that it took like this long to like be terrible.
Well, we can hear you, and we're pretty much about to wrap up and go to questions. I'm going to let people put their questions in the chat box, and then I'll just reread them. And that was, is there any accomplishment that you're most proud of?
I would say when I first started, there were just Yeah, when I first started, there were a certain number of clubs. There was in DC that I wanted to play because that's where I went to see the DJs that I admired. So I had a goal to one day play those clubs. And once I did it, it was like this huge sense of accomplishment that I worked hard, and, put in the time, cultivated the relationships, and was able to get into each one of these clubs and grace the stage at least once, so it was a huge sense of accomplishment. Black Cat, 930 Club, Fillmore Ballroom. Yeah, so it's that huge sense of accomplishment. Outside of DC, I always wanted to play Hero Ballroom. Not here, Maritime Hotel Hero Ballroom. Got to do it. It's so that was another like huge accomplishment. So.
The next question that was put in the chat was, can you name Vern, do you have an accomplishment that you find more notable that you'd like to mention?
Oh.
All right.
I mean, for me, my accomplishments, I just like helping people. I like that I'm in a position right now to give people opportunities.
I have you're puttering out really bad. Do you want to just call in and just do audio?
Because maybe now that I'm in a position to give somebody an opportunity, people, it's random events because it's cool, it's different. Like maybe this person just needs a back. Oh man, it's that bad.
Yeah, it zoomed in really quick.
How about now? Is it better?
Oh, it's a lot better now. We can't see you though.
Move to a different area.
Oh, now you sound like you're on auto tune. Do you want to hang up and then call back with just audio, like just through your phone? All right, we'll try that because I think if his phone's not trying to do video and audio.
Oh, really? What happened?
What was the question? The next question you said?
Yeah. So can you name a person whose brain you'd most love to pick over dinner?
Wow. Ooh, that's a tough one. Well, as you know, Dave, with the punk rock community, your heroes or idols, they're easily accessible. So it's weird, the band that was on the stage that you came to see, they're, when they're done, they're right on the floor next to you. So you're able to talk and chat it up. So I think that'd be tough. I don't know. Because I've always been able to do that. Like DJs that I've admired or who have been an inspiration to me, I've been able to kind of chat it up with them, pick their brains. I think, well, I guess if I were hard pressed to answer that, it would be no one alive, to be honest. Prince, I would have loved to have picked his brain. Prince is a huge inspiration to me. Everything he did. Hendrix.
Hello?
the singer of my favorite band, Joy Division. Curtis would have loved to have sat down, chatted up with him, but all those people are gone. So I can't think of anyone right now that I already haven't sat down and chatted with that I would now.
Okay. Well, Vern, you missed the question, so I'm just going to repeat it. If you could, yeah, you're real puttery again.
Oh my God, dude. I don't know what to do, man.
Well, what I can do is I can just I can wrap up with Steve if you don't, because I feel like you're just going to keep on driving, getting more driven crazy about the audio not working. But maybe, like, I don't know if you can go outside your car and then just not do the video, just do the audio like you're doing now. Maybe you'll get a better reception. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I could try.
Okay. Just pause for a second here.
Is that better?
It is so much better. So the question was, can you name a person whose brain you'd most love to pick over dinner?
All right. You can hear me? Does it sound good now?
Yeah. It sounds good.
Oh man, there's construction going on out here. So brain I'd like to pick over dinner. God, I don't know. Does it have to be within my industry or no?
No, anybody.
Larry David. I don't know. He's super funny. Pretty much the only like celebrity that I like in LA. I don't know. I don't know, man. I'm not that type of person. I don't know. I don't really have a good answer for that. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I'll go on to the next one. With the internet, it's hard not to compare your life to someone else's and where they are at. How do you make your own and create or keep your own style without looking like or sounding like everyone else?
I don't think I look like or sound like anybody else. I've been doing my own thing since day one. I think that's what makes me me. Yeah, I don't know. Like I don't really pay attention actually to what other people are doing. Like I know it's supposed to be a part of my job, and like I'll watch like sponsor me videos and like stuff like that, or like stuff my team riders are doing, but I don't pay attention actually to what my competitors are doing. I don't pay attention to what the other companies are doing. Like someone might show it to me, but I don't go out of my way to look for it because I don't really care, because what somebody else is doing isn't going to affect what I'm doing. So I've never cared.
How about you, Steve?
I would say, I mean, it with everything I do, like it seems to always go back to punk rock. And one of the values is to kind of do what you want and do it yourself and just kind of forge your own path. So, just and it also ties into defining your own success. So when you set out to do something, you have to realize that, it might not work amongst, your audience, no matter what your industry is. But if you're determined to go that route, like I've been, it's like, I'm going to do it this way and I'm going to be comfortable with the outcome, whether it's good or bad. I'm happy with that because, not to sound cliche, but I did it my way. I'm able to look myself in the mirror and be comfortable that, with what I set out to do, I accomplished. And that's just one of the values I've learned, from, years and years of punk rock. It's just, if you want to see something or you want to do something a certain way, just do it.
Okay.
So you know, I'm comfortable with, how I've done things, how I've defined my success. So yeah.
Okay. Next question is also for both of you, and I'll have Vern start on this one as well. What were the nuts and bolts of you actually getting started for yourself? And this question is, for students that want to take the steps towards a non-traditional job themselves.
Oh, is the video working good now or no?
It's a little glitchy, but we can see you.
All right. Well, man, I that's a tough question because I don't even know, like, dude, I didn't really set out for this job or this career path. It kind of just happened. It's all about like timing and like right place, right time, and like knowing like the right people, I guess. Like I mean, for me myself, I was trying to make it as like a pro skater and I got hurt. And like one injury, like I'm like recovering and someone's like, "Hey, can you film my video part?" And I'm like, "Sure, I got nothing else to do. I can hold this camera." And then that turned into like my first job. Like I was just ended up being the filmer by like default. And like I was sitting on all this footage. I'm like, what do I do with it? And I sent it to like 411 Video Magazine. And the next thing you know, I got a job because they needed somebody to cover skateboarding on the East Coast. Like, I just think I was at the right place at the right time. Like, there's no direct route because pretty much for skateboarding in this industry, it's never about what you know. It's about who you know. That's how everyone gets the jobs here. Like, you could be like the most qualified person on paper, but if you don't know the right people, you're never going to get the job. So it's all about making your connections. And I don't know, like if you want to work in our industry, like unfortunately skateboarding's in California, so you need to be in Los Angeles, San Francisco, or San Diego. And then you just have to like kind of be that person that's being around, and then you end up meeting the right people because you're at the right places, and then that could lead you to a job. Like it's pretty much that simple because most of the people that have jobs in the industry, they've never even been to college. Like these guys might just have a high school degree, a high school diploma, but it's like they just happen to know the right people. So, I don't know. It's like that for anything in life. You got to know the right people.
How about you, Steve? What actually got you started on this path for yourself?
Well, what got me started was I was always interested in music. I grew up listening to various styles of music, as friends and family can attest to. I've always just been way into music. So I wasn't a big sports fan. I never really liked watching or playing football, basketball, baseball. Just loved music. And just again, this was pre-internet. So, how do you make it in the music industry in any aspect, be it a band or a DJ or studio musician? It's just, there's no way to really know. So, but the first step was not just, again, developing relationships with people. It was also investing in myself, as I mentioned earlier. For me, it was buying turntables, buying a mixer, buying headphones, constantly updating my record collection. And a lot of it's, electronic now. You can use laptops and such, but it's constantly investing in yourself. So you have to make that commitment because you have to practice. So it's not just having a whole bunch of music. It's just how you use that music, how you play that music, how you are able to win over a crowd, and how you're able to impress club owners, and that's what gets your name out there, and that's what gets you the gigs. So it's making that investment, taking that leap. Also, well, in my transition from corporate life to, full-time DJing, one of my former like SVP when I worked corporate was sort of like the he lit the flame without knowing it to leaving the company. One day we had this all hands meeting. This was like 10 years ago. It's like, from SVP to VPs, directors, all the way down. And towards the end of the meeting, he just had this like open format question and answer session. And, no one was really participating. So he started prodding people, hey, ask me anything. And he got to me and he said, Steven, what's on your mind? Like, ask me anything. What's going on? And I said, well, I do have a question. Without naming the company, it was just going through a really tough time. I said, how are you able to come in here all pumped up, rally the team, get everyone motivated to work, through these tumultuous times? How are you able to do that? And he's like, that's a great question. He said, Steven, let me tell you something. I absolutely love what I do. So I love it. I wake up every morning, I'm reading the trade publications, reading the news, I'm watching the news, reading the newspaper. Come in, I'm fully engaged, I'm pumped up. I love everything about it, about our industry. And I thought to myself, I don't care about this industry. I'm only here because I'm paid well. It's like, I really love DJing. And I've been, DJing again since the 90s. But it's funny because within that, before that, I had that conversation with the SVP. It was like, I had come to a point where I was doing 2 full-time jobs. I was working for this company, but I had parties all over the East Coast, and I was constantly being booked. So I would leave on a Wednesday, take the first Amtrak available up to Philadelphia to DJ, take the next Amtrak up to, New York to DJ, come right back after the gig, take the first available train back, come home, shower, go into work. It just got to be too much. And I was really, really driving myself crazy. I had parties in Richmond, parties in Virginia Beach, party in Baltimore. But I had this other, this daytime job. So I came to a crossroads. I had to make a choice. And all the time of investing in myself, with practice and developing relationships and my equipment, I knew I've got to leave this place. I don't love it here. I love DJing. So, I eventually left, and, everyone will think, to everybody out there who's thinking about leaving your day job, everyone's going to think you're crazy. You're leaving the stability. But again, you have to define your success. You have to say, well, I might not make millions, but I just want to be okay. I want to be happy. People work years and years in jobs. They're unhappy. They're paid well, but they're not happy. And one other thing, my mom told me something a long time ago. She might not remember this, but I was really young. I was probably like 8 years old or so. And I said, Mom, do you want to be rich one day? I said, do you ever want to be rich? And she said, no, I don't want to be rich. I just want to be well off, able to support myself, able to support you. And that's all I care about. And it stuck with me, Success isn't always defined by how much money you have, Well, if that's, you have to define your own success. And so that was another reason I just sort of decided to go my own path eventually. It took a lot longer. And again, as I mentioned earlier, I would have loved to have started down that path post-college. Yes, I was still DJing, but I never thought about doing it full time. So until that conversation with my former SVP.
All right, so I have a question specifically for you, Steve, and then a question specifically for Vern. How do you feel when people try to Shazam a deep cut you're playing? Big mad or flattered or neither?
Depends. If it's just a regular patron, it's kind of flattering. It's cool that they're really feeling it, and I've seen it. One time I was opening for Peter Hook at the 930 Club. Peter Hook is the former bassist of my all-time favorite band, which is Joy Division. He was also the bassist of New Order, the band that formed post Joy Division. I was opening for Peter Hook at the 930 Club, and I saw this guy right up front Shazamming everything I was playing. And it was kind of cool, I thought. And he came up to me afterwards, said, oh, he was like, that was an amazing set. I loved everything. And he told me I kept Shazamming everything. I was like, I saw you. So that's cool. But when other DJs do it without telling you or asking you, it's not as flattering. It's like, it's better to just ask and say, yo, hey, I love what you're playing. Can, you tell me who it is? Or, maybe after, just like shoot me a list. Again, that's also a way of cultivating a relationship. But you'll see DJs all the time Shazamming what you're playing, knowing that they're going to take it and try to, do the same thing that you're doing. So yeah, it's not as cool. So it's a yes and no answer, right, basically.
Okay, Vern, what's your takeaway from skateboarding being in the Olympics?
All right, well, I'm going to just piggyback that Shazam thing because I Shazam Hot 97 every time I'm driving around New York because I need to know like what the younger kids are listening to. That way I don't stay old. And then when I do have to DJ a skate contest, all these younger kids just want to hear the current rap music. Like I was DJing a contest and I was playing De La Soul, and this kid came up to me and said, "What's up with this elevator music?" And I was like, "Man, you better go home and Google De La Soul tonight." So yeah, like I just feel bad for this current generation because they don't know good hip hop, and I feel sorry for what they have to listen to. And on another note, I was DJing this contest in like South Africa, and I had like a full reggae set going during a skate contest, which there's probably like 2% of skateboarders that actually like reggae. And like I get yelled at by like the dudes that hire me, like, why are you playing reggae? I'm like, because I kind of want to hear it right now. Like I'm feeling this vibe. I want to listen to everything. You paid me to DJ. I'm going to play whatever I feel like playing. And so all the sound guys that helped me set up the sound were coming up to my computer every second. You're like, yo, what track is this? This is the hot track. Like these dudes in South Africa were hyped on my reggae selection. Skateboarders, not so much. But as far as skateboarding in the Olympics, I'm torn. The core skater in me would probably hate it. The business skater in me that works for a company that sells a lot of product to people that aren't just skateboarders loves it. Either way, skateboarding in the Olympics, skateboarding at Tampa Pro, skateboarding at Street League, it's not going to make a difference to me going out and skateboarding with my friends. So it's cool. I watched it on TV. Paul Zitzer is a great announcer. He was great to listen to on TV. I listened to the web stream. Some of these guys didn't even know the names of tricks on the web stream on the internet. I wish I could have got the Tim O'Connor on the microphone because that's my good friend. And I know he was just doing live bouncing to like an empty stadium because there was nobody at the actual Olympics in Japan. It'll be interesting to see where it goes in Paris. But I mean, my personal takeaway from skateboarding as far as street skateboarding goes in the Olympics, it's not real street. It's like a best trick contest on a handrail. And so basically the best street skater in the world that won the gold medal in the Olympics can do the best trick down a handrail. That's not necessarily street skateboarding, because to me, street skateboarding is stuff you find in the streets. You don't find a perfect 16 stair handrail like in the streets. Well, maybe you do here in California, but not every street in the world. You know what I mean? Like, where's the Jersey barrier? Where's the weird rough bank? Like, why isn't Bobby Worrest in the Olympics? He's a street skater. You know, like, why aren't real street skaters? Like, where's the cellar door? You know, like, it's just like, here's your big hubba, here's your big handrail. uh the run almost doesn't even count. It's just like, oh, here's this run, but you only scored this much on the run. You got a 7 on the run, but if you do one trick on the handrail that was in your run, we'll give you an 8. And it's like, well, that doesn't make sense, because it's harder to do like all these tricks in 60 seconds than it is like one try on the rail. Like, there's just so many flaws with like the judging. Like, that's more like what I'm upset about than like it actually being in the Olympics. Because, like, yeah, it'll open a door. Maybe some skater in some other country might not ever see skateboarding. So it's kind of cool for that aspect, where it's like, okay, you're opening doors to somebody. And from the ratings, no one watches the Olympics anyway. Like the Winter Olympics, like I barely tuned in and I saw the ratings. I'm like, well, no one else was tuning in, because it's like not what it used to be. Like when I was younger, I felt like the Olympics meant something. Now it's just like, it's just boring. It's like not even entertaining. You know, it's like, all right, what are you going to watch? Like, okay, someone's swimming a lap in a pool. Cool. Someone's running around a track in a circle. That's not entertaining for like most people. Like that's why I think they're trying to get these other sports like skateboarding in the Olympics, or surfing and snowboarding. All that stuff is like more exciting to like a younger generation. Like old people watch the Olympics, and old people watch like curling and shit. Like it's like boring, man. Like Olympics sucks. Like I don't know. But if someone's gonna make money off of it, cool for them. If these like get a career or some new sponsors, it's all good for them. Like it's really not affecting my life. Like I still got to get rehab on my knee just so I could go slappy a curb tomorrow. Like it's not going to change what I'm doing.
All right, next question. Is the path you're on or life you're living remotely near what you thought about at 18? Either you can answer.
I can say emphatically, no, it was not what I thought. It wasn't. I'm happy about it, very happy about it. But again, I think my generation was the last one to, sort of only know about the doctor, lawyer, scientist path. That was all we knew, and that's what our families and friends encouraged. But I think so. Yeah, again, I was destined to become a lawyer, but I think going now and the generation I was, I guess, Generation X, so Y and on knows that there are like other career paths out there, like and how to go about getting them, pursuing them rather. So like I wouldn't have, I've got friends that are like graphic designers, and yeah, they're schools for that, but a lot of them they just did, learned themselves. They, some went to school, some didn't, but it's just one of those careers that like at my generation we didn't know how to go, to do that. So yeah, I didn't think I'd be here, you know. I'm glad I am. I'm happy, and yeah.
It's true. I mean, my mom was always pushing me like, you're going to be a doctor or a lawyer. And it's like, how are you deciding what I want to do for the rest of my life? Like, that isn't necessarily what I want to do. Like, she just assumed that's what I would do because I was smart. I got good grades. And she's like, yeah, you're going to do this and be rich and make money. And it's like, as soon as skateboarding got into the picture, she was so over it. Because that was like my focus was like, well, I'm going to be a pro skater. I'm going to get sponsored. I'm going to do this. And she hated everything. Me and my mom didn't even have a good relationship from the time I started skating until maybe 2007. So from like 1987 to 2007, I had like the worst relationship with my mom. I brought her to one event in Washington, D.C. I was working a Maloof Cup at that skate park. And I was on the mic. I was the MC. And she had a great time. She's like, "Oh my God, you're funny. You're telling all these jokes on the mic and everyone's laughing and you're like knowledgeable of the skate tricks." Like my mom was like tripping. She's like, "This is your job? You just have fun and you hang out with your friends and you travel the world." And I was like, "Yeah." And I didn't have to go be a doctor or a lawyer. And I'm like having fun at my own life. Like it's like the path that I chose. So I don't know. Yeah, you don't. Yeah, it's that generation. I think it was just that mindset because my mom never went to college. So it's like, you're going to college, and it's like, you're going to be this. And it's like, dude, you can't determine that for somebody. They have to find it on their own. Like, you have to find your own happiness, like, whatever it is.
Oh,
All right.
I want to just
I don't know. Was there another question in there? I don't even know.
off
No.
of that, I just want to say, like Vern mentioned, that he has fun doing it. But anyone out there pursuing this non-traditional path, you have to realize it's a job and you have to take it seriously. You can have fun, but understand. And I see a lot of people fail at it because they don't take it seriously. It's how you make your income. So for me as a DJ, people think it's all like partying and just, you're drinking all night and there's just women everywhere. Nothing could be further from the truth, at least for me. That's what you see on TV and movies. It's nothing like that. This is my job and I take it seriously. And, if you're doing what they do in the movies, if you're getting drunk and just making out with women, you won't get booked again. And you won't, this will not be your career. So you have to, no matter what the industry is, it's your job, no matter how fun it is, take it seriously, show up on time, do the job that you're hired to do and have fun at it. Have fun.
That is 100% correct. That's why I always get hired for all these skate events. It's because I can show up on time and I'll do the extra work. I'll do the grunt work. Because, some of the bigger events like Do Tour, there's a whole production crew. All I get to do is sit there, show up, read a little thing like what we're going to talk about and put a headset on and then just talk. And then the smaller events where there's actually less pay, there's more work. It's like, man, I got to run all these cables to set up sound to these speakers across the skate park. Like, this sucks. I got to set up these or put banners and signage up and 10 by 10 tents. I'm like, I didn't sign up for this. I'm just the DJ. But the fact that I'm going to do all that stuff, because other people will complain and not want to do it. And I remember one year they tried to replace me with a younger DJ. And I was like, oh, you're bringing this other guy on the trip. Other guy just wanted to party. He thought it was just a party. He's showing up like hungover, drunk, and like he like partied himself out of a job. And then they had to bring me back in because it's like, well, Vern's responsible. He's going to be there early. And, I don't have to worry about him being hungover. So it's like, yeah, all that stuff is true, man. Like, the more responsible you are, even though these are fun jobs, it's like you have to be responsible. You have to be the adult in the room. That's how you keep getting the gigs.
Awesome. I'm really thoroughly enjoying these guest questions because they went into areas that I didn't even think to go with you guys, and you guys have done a great job answering them. This is the last question. And with so many people talking about being a brand or branding, how do you guys square this with your backgrounds in punk rock and the DIY culture?
I'll start. Branding is important in the industry, in this industry. You have to brand yourself, define who you are, brand yourself, because people, not only your audience, but the people that book you need to make a connection with this brand. So for me, it's Stephen Faith / Stereo Faith / Fact 33. They have to, they have to have something to recognize. So branding, if you want to make money at it, you have to, people have to connect with you. So, when they refer you, they can say, yes, Stereo Faith, they can direct you towards a brand. So it's very important. And I know the punk rock community is kind of anti, brand, but also the punk rock community is also anti sort of making money, for it. So it's like two totally different things. So yeah, I would say branding is important.
Yeah. Well, it's so weird now because with the internet, everyone's their own brand now. Like we didn't have this medium, this platform like back in the day. So like if you go back to like the old school roots, it's like, all right, let's say I want to start this t-shirt company. Like you're literally like silk screening shirts like in high school or something. Or you got like a homie at Kinko's. So you can like go and make some stuff and like you're in there like all night. Cause I used to do that just for like weird stuff when I was in a band. I'm like, all right, my homie Justin Mulder works at this Kinko, so I could get like the hookup and I can make some flyers real quick or something like that. So, but yeah, everything was like self-taught. It's like, dude, I didn't know how to do any of this stuff. I'm like, I'm just figuring it out, like, trial and error. And so there's two routes for skateboarding as far as branding. It's like you could skate for a brand, like the brand I work for. And then usually that fault, like we already have like an image basically for our brand. It's very clean cut. There's nothing flashy. It's more about like the quality product than like than you. It's more about the product than the person. And so if they're cool with that, like, yeah, come and skate for us. And but if you're trying to be this, like Tony Hawk is like a brand. So, but Tony Hawk, like, has created that image for himself, like over years. And it's all about, not everyone can do that. It's like you think you could do it because maybe you got X amount of followers on Instagram or TikTok or whatever, but it's like, all right, are you selling a product? Tony Hawk's got a skateboard company, so he's selling Birdhouse skateboards. Like that's his brand. And he's also a brand because he portrays a certain image in skateboarding and he's like the best skater like ever. So, and then if he skates for other brands, like they're trying to market their products based off of his image. So there's so many routes, but it's like if you're some like Instagram star or what are they, influencers, like it's like, okay, cool, but it's like, are you actually able to sell something? Like, am I going to actually see it translate into sales? Like that's where I'm always like torn, because there's these skaters I sponsor that are like known as social media influencers, and I go to their like YouTube pages and they have millions of followers, but I haven't seen a correlation yet between followers and sales. So I'm still like trying to figure out like what the hype is over these like influencers. Yeah, that part exactly. As I see that comment come in.
Awesome. Well, I think we're going to wrap it up. And I told you we were going to go to 90 minutes and we're already 5 minutes past that. So Steve and Vern, if you can stick around. Everyone else, thank you all so much. If you've enjoyed this, just know that I'll be doing similar Being My Own Boss events every Cultural Heritage Month throughout the semesters. Next month will be Women's History Month. And the month after that will be for Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. We drop off for the summer. And then in September, we start with Latinx Heritage Month. Halfway through September is LGBTQ IA plus History Month. And then we have Indigenous Peoples Heritage Month in November. And then it all starts over again in a year from now. So I really appreciate everybody coming up with so many great questions, lots of great comments in the box. And I look forward to seeing you all at future events. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
I'm going to bump everybody out. Let's see here. Hold on real quick here.